Welcome, friends, to another exciting episode of A VGM Journey. And I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing in today's show It's a Shakedown from the game Shakedown Hawaii, and it was composed by Matt Creamer. It's a new year, and with it, some more VGM Journey goodness. And that I want to kick off the show with this next track, which is coming from Mario and Luigi Brothership. The track is Twistee Island, and it was composed by Hideki Sakamoto. That track that you just heard, that was Twistee Island from the game Mario and Luigi Brothership, and it was composed by Hideki Sakamoto. I just want to get this out of the way and say that going into this game, I was actually a little bit worried about the soundtrack because Yoko Shimomura was not returning to do this entry in the long-running Mario and Luigi series. But after hearing tracks like Twistee Island, my worries went away because this is actually a really good soundtrack. It's got a bit of a different flair compared to the earlier entries in the series, but I find a track like this to still be Mario and Luigi. And the game itself is a lot of fun. I still need to beat it, but I've already put 20 something hours into it, and It's definitely worth playing. Though I will say, if you play the earlier games, you pretty much know what to expect from this one. It does kind of play it a bit safe and doesn't really do anything totally dramatic or different, but it's still solid in its own way. This next track, this happens to be a request coming from Long Stick Go Boom, and they wanted me to play the main theme from Johnny Bazookatone, and it was composed by Andi McGinty and Des Tong. That track that you just heard, that was the main theme to Johnny Bazookatone, and it was composed by Andi McGinty and Tong. And this was also requested by Longstick Go Boom, so thank you, Longstick Go Boom, for that request. Man, I gotta say, that track was pretty wild. I think it starts off as a pretty average kind of 90s sounding music, and I mean, it was good. But what really catches my attention is when the sax comes in. And that, from what I'm hearing, is that the music to the game is really good. But the actual game itself is kind of in the realm of meh. And from the brief Wikipedia synopsis that I looked into, you play as Johnny Bazookatone, who gets sent to the future and has to retrieve his guitar. Like I was saying, nothing mind blowing, but it has the pieces to be a pretty good time. Though it has me thinking that, especially at that time, it seems like games that have music as a plot device, for the most part, usually has a really good soundtrack for it. And I always thought it's such a gamble to do that kind of thing because it has to be good. And I can't really think of too many examples where music plays a huge role in the plot, but somehow the soundtrack is garbage. And in the case of Johnny Bazookatone, if this main theme is any kind of indicator, then I gotta say, they did a good job. We're gonna move on to another request, this time coming from producer of the show, Carly, and she wanted me to play the track Burrow Playful from the game Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and this was composed by Jeremy Soule. That track that you just heard, that was Burrow Playful from the game Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It was composed by Jeremy Soule, and this was requested by Carly. So thank you, Carly, for that request. I will say that this track was a very pleasant surprise. And for some reason, I wasn't aware that Jeremy Soule, who's mainly known for doing the music for the Elder Scrolls games, did some Harry Potter music. And I had to ask Carly what the context for this was, and even looked at some YouTube videos. And that this plays at the very beginning of the game when Harry Potter is at the Weasley's house, and it serves a bit of a tutorial where you're just trying to get a feel for the game's mechanics, but you also play a mini game where you have to toss gnomes out of the Weasley's garden, and just watching the gameplay for it, I find it pretty funny. And then you have this playful music playing, which I have to say, it does sound very John Williams-esque, which makes sense since He did the score for the movie, and despite Jeremy Soule being kind of a terrible person, I'm not going to go into the details on that. This is really well done. So I just want to say once again, thank you, Carly, for that request. I think we're going to change things up again with this next track, and this time coming from Magic Johnson's Fast Break. This is the high score music, and this was composed by Tim Follin. That track that you just heard, that was High Score from the game Magic Johnson's Fast Break, and it was composed by Tim Follin. And that's going to just about do it for the show today. If you like what you've been listening to, have your friends check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever podcasting service that you can think of. I'm more than likely going to be on there. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com, and you could also check us out on both X and Blue Sky at VGM Journey. We also have a Discord server for the show, which I will provide a link for that in the show notes, where you can hang out with your fellow VGM journeymen and talk about games, music, and even look at some cool art. We're also going to play things out with one more track, and that is the good ending from the game Streets of Rage, and this was composed by Yuzo Koshiro. Have a good one, everyone.